as soon as you get that spark in your head, that where you're sitting down having a coffee and you think, I'm gonna flipping well do it. I'm gonna write a book. As soon as that moment happens, man, it's a hell of a journey.
I don't know who you are, but welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast. Sit back, relax, and listen about cameras, gear, settings, stories, and all things photography. Join Dermot and Darren on Ireland's Best Photography Podcast. Let's go.
Hello, and you're very welcome to episode 123 of the Irish Photography Podcast. I'm Darren, I'm in charge this evening. I don't have Dermot with me today, but I've got two other people that I'd love to have a conversation with, and we're going to talk about books. And books are something that I think everybody should have, and if you haven't got a book of photography already, I'd recommend that you would. And when I was thinking about that, I said, who will I ask who has recently released a book and can give us an insight in what the amount of work that goes into a book, the benefit of a book, and who can try and convince us that a book is really, really important to have. So, without any further ado, welcome back to the podcast, two good friends of the podcast. Thomas Heaton, welcome back times number 2. Adam Gibbs, welcome back times number 3. How are we doing, guys?
Great.
Yeah, very well.
Evening.
Yep, good evening. It's not for you, Adam, right? Your afternoon.
I think it's 1 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, good afternoon, Adam Gibbs.
Hello.
Good evening, Thomas Heaton. How are we doing? So listen, guys, thanks a million for coming on. I'm really excited to kind of get underneath the skin of both of you guys' books. I mean, I have both of your books. The idea that actually came about me to record this podcast is I actually recorded a video only recently for my own channel as to why I think it's important that people should have books. And particularly now we're going back into lockdown. It's time for people to get better, time to improve. And a very good idea from a book point of view is that you have something which is tangible, which you can touch as opposed to looking at a screen. So I said, guys, you know what? Let's have a chat. Let's see how we're getting on and see how you guys came up with the ideas for both of your books. So does that sound like something that you had a lot of information to share with the listeners and the viewers, because we're going to record it on video too?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, probably too much information. I could just go on for it. It was such a process from start to finish. As soon as you get that spark in your head, that where you're sitting down having a coffee and you think, I'm gonna flipping well do it. I'm gonna write a book. As soon as that moment happens, man, it's a hell of a journey.
Yeah. I've wanted to do a book since I started, so 20 odd years. But I never really got around to it until last year, and I just happened to see a guy that was doing fine art books in the UK, and I just wrote to him just as a kind of a one-off, and he responded, and I just kind of went from there. So,
Brilliant.
But both Tom and I have done our books very differently, for sure.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's what intrigued me more so. I think in regards to, as you say, Thomas, the amount of work and the journey that you get from the initial spark right through to the point where you can actually hold something in your hand and say, this is mine, I've created this. And that's why I want to get it behind, I suppose, into the background of it. That, I think, Thomas, if I was to paraphrase and say, your book is a journey of your photography so far. And Adam, your book is an analogy or an anthology, is that the word I'm looking for? Of all of your images in the last 20 years. So it's a body of work that you show in a book to be able to show that whole variance. Is that a good assessment of both your books? Maybe, Thomas, if I can ask you that one first.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a journey, but I don't know. It's not it's not that I start at the beginning of my photography and end where I am today. It's every image in there is accompanied by a story.
Yes.
Because there is always a story behind an image, whether you recognize there's a story behind an image or not. There definitely is. So for me, it was about extracting the stories behind the images and just giving the images a bit more life and a bit more context. And that's what I really wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want just a collection of images because, to be honest, I don't think my body of work is there yet for just a collection of images. Whereas obviously Adam's got, 20 odd, I don't want to offend you, Adam, 50 years experience.
150 years of experience.
Hang on.
Adam's body of work is like superb. So he very, very, it'd be very easy, as he's already proven, to build a collection of a body of work. Whereas for me, I didn't feel like my images go together as a body of work yet. I'm still too early in this whole landscape photography game. But to break them down and share the stories behind them with little tips and little bits of adventure, for me, that was a format that excited me more than just picking my best images and putting them in a book. Yeah, I just don't think I've got the collection just yet.
And actually, it's funny that Tom should say that, because that was originally what I wanted to do with my book. I wanted to write little kind of anecdotes or stories behind the images. And Kozu are more into the portfolio type books. So he kind of talked me out of that and got to say, well, just do a portfolio. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay. And so Greg actually designed the book. I sent him the images, and he more or less tried to put them in a cohesive body of work, going with seasons and colors and such, rather than putting stories to the images. So if I did do another book, I would probably maybe do something a bit more like what Tom has done. I remember that years ago there was a photographer named John Shaw who I really admired, and he had a book very much like that, where he talked about the images and the story behind them, and it just kind of gave you a bit more insight and made you appreciate the photographs just a little bit more, when you can actually kind of read about what was going behind those pictures. And of course with Tom, with the videos that go with that, again, I mean, that just draws you even more into each of the images. So I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, I one of my favorite books is by David Noton, who's a UK landscape photographer. And his format of his book was to have an image, and then he'd have a before, during, and after. And I just found that so engaging. The before would talk about how he woke up at 4 a.m. and was walking through through the wilderness or whatever. And then during, he would talk about setting up his camera. His hands were cold, his lens was fogging up. And then after, he would talk about the anticipation of maybe getting the film developed or importing the images into Lightroom or Photoshop. And then a little bit about processing, not much, not a great deal, but this whole before, during, and after just opened up the images so much more than if I was just to look at the image itself. Don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But I'm a photographer looking at a photographer's work, so I want to know a bit more, a bit more than just the aesthetics.
And it's interesting there, because you've both kind of alluded to it. So I suppose, Adam, who inspired you, or what was the idea behind coming up with your book? As we say, it's a body of work over the last 20 years. Was it 20 years ago you wanted to do it, and only now you kind of took the plunge? Well, not now, but when you did do that? Or was it a recent inspiration that you said, you know what, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said before, I've always wanted to put together a book, but I, for whatever reason, things just got in the way, or it was too expensive. But with, I mean, now you can pretty much pre-order. You can put a book out and get people to pre-order it. So at least then you can kind of figure out how many books you might want to print, and then you have some money to print those books and so on. But in years past, before the internet, you couldn't really do that. You would have to go to a publisher and talk them into publishing a book for you, and it was extremely difficult because they're not going to print up necessarily a portfolio. They're very niche kind of companies that do that sort of thing. And
for sure,
back when I first started, there were very few companies that actually did very short runs. They were all like thousands of books, and selling thousands and thousands of landscape photography books is very difficult. Because it's a very niche market. So I have done books before though, but they've all been like one-offs, like Blurb, and I think it's a great way for people to go if they go on a trip and they want to have a small portfolio of that trip. Then I would highly recommend going in for a Blurb book or one of those small companies that puts together books, individual books. I mean, they're kind of pricey, but it's a great way to show off your work, I think.
Well, I was thinking about doing zines. I don't know much about zines. I think it's almost like it's pretty much the bottom end of the book market but not in a bad way. It's for example, if you did like we did that trip to Iceland back in July, it would be great to create a zine of that trip. And it's almost, I think zine, oh gosh, I don't even know. I think zine must mean magazine. It's almost like a pamphlet rather than a book. It might be like 20 pages, quite thin paper, but you get it produced probably for a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars, and you tend to sell them for about $10. And I think if you want a printed collection of a body of work, not necessarily a portfolio book, but something quick and something tangible, then a zine would be the way to go. And I just thought, if you're going on a dedicated photography trip for a period of time, or you've been studying a certain area or, a collection of images, and that could be a great way to kind of get into it before committing to they probably have maybe like 20 pages, 30 pages, just paperback, just like, yeah.
That's a great idea, actually. Doesn't James Popsis do something like that? He has kind of
he does.
Every year he has like a little annual where he puts in that year's photography and then sells them for £10 or something. Yeah,
it could be. I'm trying to think who else. I think Negative Feedback may have done them in the past. I don't know if you know Negative Feedback. It's a film photographer. Yeah, they're just quite. I don't know. I guess they're quite hipster-ish. You can get people who might. I tell you what, my friend. Hang on. May as well give him a little plug while we're here. One of my best mates has made a comic. And he's written I can't sound from the Gopro. He's written a comic, right? This is just something he printed out and sent to me, but he's had these done as like a little zine. So it's just exactly like that. The quality is not going to be the best, but if you just want a tangible thing to hold in your hand and maybe send out to fans, or if you've got channel members or Patreon supporters, anything like that. And the great thing is I think you can sell them pretty cheap, like maybe £10 or something. And they're cheap to post as well. They don't weigh anything. They're really small. So that is something I would love to do, because it's something you can just, it's just an extra thing to work towards when on a trip. Like I love self-contained photography trips. A week here, a week there, and to then put it all into a little zine with a few little stories, little paragraphs here and there. I think could be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Thanance, Tom.
No, you take it. I've never done one, but you can do them, and maybe it's maybe I can add more to my merch store. That's what it's called now, isn't it? It's not known as a photography book. It's your merch.
It's your merch. It's your merch. And that's actually a very interesting one, I suppose. And the fact that you've thought about that as well, Thomas. Like same question to you. What was your inspiration to get the book? I know you've mentioned that you said, okay, with lockdown, it kind of forced you into the thing of, do you know what, I'm going to do it now while I can do that. But
lockdown forced me to finish it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I've always wanted to do it, but I've always struggled with the commitment of it, because it's such a big undertaking that it's it's, I don't know how best to describe it. It's such a big job that there's no way I could see an end point. It's not like, I can knock out a book in a week, let's get it done. It's something that's going to take a long time. I think when I started the book, I knew I didn't have enough images to finish it. I just set out about probably 2 years ago, maybe longer now, set out with maybe 10 or 15 of my favorite images and started writing maybe a few hundred words about each image. And then every now and again, I would sit down and write, add a few more images, add a few more stories. And then slowly but surely, you start to build up a collection and you think, okay, we're getting there now, we're getting there. And then as you start to get to the final third of the images, then you start to pick up momentum, because you can start to see the finish line. But for me, I'm not very focused, so I couldn't just commit to it for, say, a month and write it. It's something that I had to pick up every now and again when I felt inspired.
Interesting. And actually, what I find is even more interesting is the difference in the contrast, I think, between both of how you've come to the actual finished product of the book. So, Thomas, you've done yours self-published, and you've gone off and you've decided on all of those images. You mentioned there, Adam, that you've had help in regards to what images to choose, or even in the layout of the images. So was it hard? I suppose maybe, again, Adam, if I ask you first on that one, was it hard for you to decide what images went into the book, or did you send a lot more images than ended up in the book, and was the cutting room floor done for you, or was it down to you what you decided?
So it was more or less a collaboration. I sent Greg quite a few more images than what are in the book. And we decided to stick with landscapes. I mean, there are a couple of verticals in there, but all of the books are landscapes because of the format of the book. And it was funny because some of the images aren't necessarily my favorite images, but they went really well with the next image. And if you look at the book, it gradually goes from different colors, like it will go from winter and then into spring, but the colors kind of go together.
Yes.
And Greg, he sent me PDFs every now and then, and I'd kind of say, well, I don't really want that image in there. Could you put this one in? And then he'd kind of grumble a little bit, and then we'd just go back and forth. But it wasn't really a huge deal. I pretty much let him have full reign, and I was really happy with what he came up with. I didn't have a clue of how to put a book together. I just wanted to put a book together, so I let him pretty much take me through the whole process. And I learned a lot from that. So if I did another book, I would probably design it myself, because I'd really like to give it a go, So yeah.
And I suppose, Thomas, for you, was it a case of, on one hand you're going, I like it, on the other hand the other Thomas was going, no, I don't like it? Or did you have somebody to bounce the images off for deciding what went in?
Not necessarily the images. I was very happy with the images, but there were so many decisions and micro decisions that need to be made when making a book, and I did have lots of help from friends and family. So it was a long process, but for me the best thing I did was use an editor or a proofreader. So I'm terrible at writing. I'm good. I can get the words out and I can tell a good story. But in terms of grammar and spelling and the repetitive use of the same word over and over again, it's stuff that I wouldn't pick up on. And so my wife very kindly read everything, and she's really good at grammar and spelling, so she would correct it. And then when I thought the book was complete, actually a very kind gentleman reached out to me and he said that he is a book editor and a proofreader, and he would happily read over my book for a fee, obviously, but a very, very reasonable fee. So he's a fan of the channel. So I was like, yeah, okay, great. So I sent him the book, and honestly, I expected him to come back with not very much. And he came back with so many changes. And he was picking up on things that I couldn't even imagine, because, for example, one of the images was taken in Namibia, just outside of a town called Swakopmund. And I described the town in the book, and I described it as like a strange German colonial town dropped in the middle of a desert. And he said, you can't describe it as strange, because to you it's strange, but to the people that live there and to the locals, it's perfectly normal. So basically, he was looking at the book from an objective standpoint, whereas I wasn't. I was looking at it as mine. So he's picking up on things that I didn't pick up on, and he's picking up on things that might cause offense to people. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So, in a good way. So he made so many changes, and picking up on another example is I started a story by saying, what did I say? Something like, there's no question of a doubt, this is the best image this is it. I said, this is a bold statement, but this is the best image in the book. And he said, by saying this is the best image in the book, that is a bold statement. So you don't need to say it's a bold statement. So get rid of that. Little things like that everywhere. And I tell you what, after he'd finished with it, it was just like a professional piece of work. I was like, wow, I'm a real writer. It was just basically finished off the whole thing.
Yes.
He just polished the edges, and it was great. So, it wasn't expensive. You might pay a few $100s, send your book to an editor. It's just that extra peace of mind.
And it also gives you the other opinion that you haven't had before that, because it's been in your head. You've got your own visual aspect of it, how you think it looks. You've got your storytelling that you're putting in behind that. But then for the third party to read it and not read it from the one-sided view, which is as you wrote it, which I think is a very important thing, because the person that reads the book doesn't necessarily read the book that has how you would have read it or wrote it. It's their interpretation in the third person. Or am I incorrect in that?
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's like your images, isn't it? You look at your own images differently than somebody else might look at them. So to get the opinion of somebody who's not connected to you in any way really is invaluable. And of course, grammar and writing and everything is a skill. And I've never done it before, so I would never expect my words to be perfect.
For sure.
So send it to a professional if you're going to write anything. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, even Adam there, you mentioned there with Craig and the help that Craig can give you, not only in deciding what the images would be, but also the cohesiveness and how it all joins together. Visually, images join together. We read words as we would say the words in our own head. But if somebody picks it up, it may not actually be cohesive to see the words you're writing versus the image. And with Craig looking at your images, Adam, I imagine it's a case of, I like this one because it's going to automatically flow over onto the next image to keep the person turning the page.
Yeah, and definitely. It's very much like the written word. I'd pick images just because they happen to be my favorites, but just because they're my favorites or ones that I like, most often than not, they're not really images that resonate with other people, and it's the same with putting them into a book. Obviously, I must have thought something of the images to send him that selection, but I'm kind of looking at what he chose and I thought, I don't know if I ought to put that one in, but I just went with it, and I thought they went really well together, so I just went with it and trusted his instinct. He's been publishing books for quite a while, so the only thing he was wrong on though is throughout the book, I guess it's a publishing thing, they now and then they'll put in blank pages. We got a lot of complaints of people saying, well, there's something wrong with the book because there's a blank page. So the second edition, we added a couple more images and got rid of the blank pages.
Okay. And isn't that very interesting when you think about that? Because it's the interpretation of the reader, which ultimately is the most important, not the interpretation of the publisher or the interpretation of the author, but it's what the person that picks that up and they go, I like this, or I don't like this, and you can't really predict that. I don't think, can you?
No, it's impossible.
No.
Yeah.
You can't please. You can't please everybody either.
No.
I've had nothing but positive comments. I got one or two that were negative, but overall, the comments have just been brilliant. So I definitely can't complain. People have been really happy.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you send out books that have pages in back to front and upside down and stuck together, which I've done. Because I ordered so many books that it's perfectly natural and understandable that every now and again one on the production line gets a bit messed up, right? And it's literally 1 in 1,000 or something. But I sent out one book where the cover was on upside down. So you look at the book and you open it, and then you open it and you're on the back page upside down. It's like, what? I was like, oh, sorry, I'll send you another one. And I've had
should be worth more.
Yeah, there should be.
Exactly. Collector's edition,
I've had ones where the pages, like page 22 was repeated 7 times. I'm so sorry. I obviously didn't, and of course they're shrink wrapped, so I can't check them all. I couldn't check them all anyway, but every now and again there's a bad copy. Obviously, I immediately send out a replacement that is checked, but it's quite stressful. I think having it done the way Adam's done it, it kind of gets rid of a lot of that pressure, where the responsibility falls a lot on Kazoo. But when you do it yourself, everything. And I checked my book and had it checked over and over again by 3 or 4 different people, and I challenged people to find errors. One guy who was a YouTube fan, he emailed me and he said, I'm a proofreader as well. And at this point, the book was finished and ready to go to print, right? And he said, I'd love to proofread it. And I was like, no, it's ready. I'm literally going to send it to print tomorrow. I was like, I tell you what, I'll send you a PDF, and I challenge you to find an error. I challenge you. And he found one error, and it was a rogue full stop in between 2 paragraphs. I was like, wow. Oh my God, how did you spot that? So, went straight in and deleted it. But actually, do you know what? After everything I've done, there is one error in the book. And I don't even know if I want to say it, but it's not a bad one.
Keep it. You can have a competition at one point for somebody to find it in the book and give them a prize.
So that's not a bad idea.
True.
That's not a bad idea. But I can't tell you now the stress, no matter how many times you've read, reread, and checked the PDF file and checked everything and checked the proofs and checked, the absolute stress of seeing, a pallet full of books being loaded off the back of a truck that you've just paid God knows how many tens of thousands of pounds for, and you open it and you look at the first one, because you can't. What surprised me is I said, can you just send me a finished copy before I go ahead with the whole order? I don't care what it costs. I just want to see one copy. And he said, no, we can't do it. He said it'll cost you thousands. He said just trust me, it'll be fine. He sent me the proofs, I had everything, but the actual finished binded copy I didn't have. So, I felt sick to my stomach when I got the delivery. Opened the box, got the first book, took it out of the cling film or the shrink wrap, and I'm almost too scared to look at it. I'm just waiting to see that error. And then every page I look at it, I go, no, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. And you slowly, and then after spending an entire day with the book, you relax and you think, and then it's done. It's like, oh man, what a feeling.
Well, you know what? We'll come back in a moment actually to discuss about the pros and cons of going your way, Thomas, on your own, or the headache is with Kozu from Adam's point of view, because they're the ones that are doing all that. So we'll come back to that in a moment. What we'll do here is we'll take a very, very quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages. If you're enjoying this episode of the podcast, why not jump over to iTunes or Spotify and listen to the back catalogue that we have with some great episodes where we talk about photography, gear, and some excellent guests along the way. Thanks very much for listening and for watching. We'll see you on the next one. And you're very welcome back to part 2 of the Irish Photography Podcast with Thomas Heaton and Adam Gibbs. And guys, a question I suppose I wanted to ask you is, Thomas, you decided completely in your point of view what you wanted to have, how you were going to create it. Adam, you used a publisher. But how about the deciding of the size of the book, the format of the book, the paper to use? Was that a difficult one? And maybe, Thomas, if I go to you on that one first.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you make a book, when you make any kind of physical product that you need to sell, there are two ways to look at it, two perspectives. The perspective of the creative, so you want your images to look good on the paper, you want your words and your writing to be obviously the best it can be, but then there's the business side of things. So you've got to look at the cost price of the book, but you've also got to look at the size and the weight and how that will impact packaging and shipping and all that kind of thing. A number of pages, it's not like, if you go over a certain number of pages, you go up to the next tier. So because of the way that the pages are printed and manufactured and put together, if I think it's maybe it might be done in 8 pages, so 8-page blocks. So I remember I initially had 116 pages or something like that, and the manufacturer said, "Well, do you want to just push it up a little bit, because otherwise we're just going to waste the paper." So it says if you have got any more content to put in there, having 2 extra pages won't cost you any more. But then you got the other end of that scale where you've only got 1 page, and you're essentially paying for 8 pages, if that makes sense. But the main thing to consider is packaging and shipping costs, because I'll be shipping this worldwide, and every gram counts, and also the size of the package counts as well. So you could do a beautiful big book, right? But it's going to cost more to ship it than you're selling the book for. And for any customer, that's a difficult thing to get your head around. Why is the postage more than the book?
Yes.
Especially now we're in COVID times when I would say shipping has doubled since this time last year.
Yes, it has.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's doubled. Just
for sure.
Here in the UK especially. International shipping, international shipping has doubled. Like, it cost me twice as much to send my calendar this year as it did last year. It's a nightmare. So, yeah.
I mean, the other day I went to order a book from a photographer. The book was $35 US.
Wow.
And when it came to shipping, they wanted $60 US. So it would have been $95 US for a book. And then with, duty, taxes, and then, of course, exchange, we're talking probably $150 for a book, which is just It's just outrageous. Unfortunately, shipping has been a bit of an issue even with my book, because we were pre-selling them at a fixed postage rate, and then of course the postage rates went up 50% in the UK, so that obviously is taken out of any kind of profit, which isn't a huge amount when you're doing it with a publisher. So
I remember I took pre-orders on my book, and I had the price of the book plus shipping, and I took the orders like 3 or 4 months before the book was ready, and in that time period prices of postage started going up and up and up, and then Royal Mail, who I was using, announced that on the 1st of July, I think it was the 1st of July, postage to USA was going to go up by 50% or something like that. So it would have gone from being about £9 or £10. What was it? 14. It would have gone from £14, and then from the 31st of July, it would have been £21. And I'm like, well, that's the profit of my book gone. So I'm getting onto the manufacturer saying, can you please, I need the books before mid-July, so I've got time to pack and ship all the USA orders, because as of the 31st of July, US orders will be a loss. And obviously you can't predict all this. It's just, it's such a nightmare. Luckily I got them all out before Royal Mail upped their prices on the 31st of July. So it was mental, it was all stations go. It's stressful, but ultimately worthwhile.
But you know what? I think it's something there about the pricing actually was very important, as you say, because you can predict as much as you can control, but things you can't control, you can't control. And when you start looking at the increases in costs there, like, it's interesting to see why they've gotten more expensive. And apparently it's because there's not as many flights that are going across transatlantic. You've got less space to cram these things into. And even, from my wife's point of view, she's from the US and she wants to send things back to her family in the US, and she can't at the moment because you're limited in what you can actually send through before it becomes so in non-cost effective or ineffective costs, let's just say.
I don't want not to get political, but I believe there are problems with the US Postal Service at the minute, something to do with postal voting and how the White House or Donald Trump is trying to essentially destroy the Postal Service. It could just be internet rubbish I'm reading, but apparently the Postal Service in the US is a little bit unreliable at the moment. Shaky. And then, like you said before, there's usually a lot of courier companies use passenger planes to ship mail. There's no passenger planes. They're all grounded. So you have to use a door-to-door courier who have their own airplanes, and of course they're very expensive. I mean, it's a great service, and if you use a cheaper service, which you can use, but the books they just go missing. They get stuck in customs. They're not tracked. They go missing, and they turn up 3 months later. And for every book you send that doesn't arrive within a reasonable amount of time, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you've either got to refund them or send another. So again, it gets to the point where it's just, man, it's hard. It is. It never used to be hard, but it's just 2020, isn't it? 2020. Just forget about it.
2020. The upside down year. Yeah. And Adam, I suppose for you then, when you're working with the likes of in Kozu, did they give you a steer on the right type of paper to choose? A satin finish, a gloss finish, or the right size, as you say, most of the images are landscape? Or was it purely down to you saying, okay, you know what, I like this, I've seen it elsewhere, or what was it?
No, I pretty much relied on Greg's expertise. He sent me, obviously he couldn't really send me samples of the paper, but he did make recommendations. And then when it came to color of the pages, then he would send me different colors that we could use, and I would have a talk with my partner Karen, and we'd kind of look over the different colors and say, well, this kind of goes together, and just little things like that. I guess the important thing about paper is that you don't really, especially if you have text on the back, you don't really want the text to bleed through to the image on the other side. So the paper has to be reasonably thick, otherwise, when you look at the image, you'll see the text behind it, and you obviously don't really want that. So
what GSM did you have for your paper, Adam?
Hang on, I have to look.
Hang on, I'll try and feel it. Hang on, it's around a 220 or a 210.
Is it? Wow.
I think I think it's
I'm
on the
guessing.
back.
I was guessing.
Oh, it doesn't say.
Well,
I don't have the
I went with the
micrometer.
170, but I was going to go with a 200. But the 200 would have made it, I think, in my opinion, too heavy, much heavier.
Much heavier.
And I had the samples in front of me, and I also used the same paper that I used in a lot of photography books. So I actually had other people's photography books that had the same paper at different weights. So I was able to see a physical difference. And the 200 was nice, don't get me wrong, but I didn't see enough of a difference between the 200 and the 170 to pay extra and have that heavier weight. So I went with 170, which I think's a very, very nice.
I'm pretty sure this is 200, but I don't have as many pages. Like this is 87 pages, so it's a bit thinner. So maybe that's how they cut down on weight. Because books are heavy, that's for sure.
Yeah, they are heavy.
I'm probably in the fortunate position that I've got both your books here, so I can have a feel of both the papers. And I think Adam, yours is slightly heavier, I think, than Thomas's. Maybe in that way.
Really?
But I'm just wondering, actually, I suppose, really, that's another point there for that one. But I suppose the question that I have is, when you look at images, and Thomas, you mentioned it there about different books and looking at different books. I mean, I've got a number of photography books, like to say, old ones from Gallon Rowell and stuff like that. And you look at the quality of the image, it really depends on the paper that it's printed on. So if you go with a satin matte or you go with a gloss finish, the same image, it can be brilliant or it can be absolutely astounding depending on the paper.
Yeah, well, the way around that is to go straight down the middle and go for a satin. That's what I did. Because I was going to go gloss and then I was going to go matte. I thought, gloss is nice. And then you pick up a matte book and you go, but matte's nice. And then I'm like, I don't know. And then I thought, what, I'll go satin. It's nice and safe. And it is. And it's a nice, I went with Fedrugoni paper, which is very nice. It's just satin, so it's just got that lovely sheen to it. Super nice. It's interesting that Adam went for landscape. I went for a square book because I knew that I was going to have landscape and portrait images in. And I thought, well, it'll just have to be square, and then I won't have any stress about rotating the images or anything like that.
But see, this gives me an excuse to come out with a vertical edition. A different.
Yes, that's also a smart thing to do. I did think of that. Damn it. Although I am thinking about doing a panoramic book again. The logistics are terribly difficult, but I think they can be overcome. You can get these books that are called lay flat books. And when you open them, no matter what page you turn to, it lays completely flat, so you don't have that bend in the middle. But you can only get so many pages. I don't think you can get many pages per book. And then if you want it to be quite high impact, it's going to be a good sized book. It's going to be big and thick and heavy, and it's going to be one of those books where the postage is the same price or even more than the book. So that is a challenge to overcome.
That is a high possibility. And I suppose, this is a very difficult question for me to ask both of you, right? It's like me kind of saying, which is your favorite kid or which is your favorite pet or which is your favorite family member. But have you both got a favorite image that you've put into your own book? So in all the work that you've been doing in building the book up, Thomas, on your own, and obviously Adam with Craig, was there one image within that you said, what, this is my banger image, this is my favorite image? Or is it more than one?
Yeah,
I love them all.
Do you not remember the story I just told you?
No.
This is the best image in the book. That's how it starts. It's that one there. It's called Star of the Show.
Yes.
And there are so many reasons why this is my favorite image. It's subjective, obviously, but for me, it's a local area. 20 minutes from my house. Pretty sure that nobody's shot that tree before. 99 times out of 100, that tree just looks ugly as hell. I think it's a hawthorn. But on this one day, it just absolutely shone. It's covered in hoarfrost, backlit by the sun, crisp, beautiful colours and tones, and it was an image that could only captured within like a 5-minute window, because as soon as the sun hit the tree, it started to melt the frost, and then 10 minutes later, the frost had melted and the entire scene was washed out. And then you go back to this tree at any other day, it is ugly and unrecognisable. So for me, that's my favourite image. But yeah, I mean, there's lots in there that I'm very proud of. And my opinion of my own work changes regularly anyway.
Well,
actually, I remember your video, Tom. I remember
back in the day, that was an early one. That, yeah, God.
That you're just talking about. Yeah.
Well, actually, do you know what? Here's a more interesting one for you, because the inspiration for me to get you guys on the podcast is when I made this video about Thomas's book. And within that, there was one image out of all the images that I actually picked to be able to bring a video for the QR codes, which we'll talk in a moment. And it just so happens that it was that image. And it was that video that I brought into your video, into my video of you talking about that tree. So I think it is a striking image, and I'd agree with you, particularly in regards to, as you say, ordinarily you might drive past stuff like this, but isn't that what, again, here, Adam, we're all about merch, right? So, it's all about the light, yeah?
Quiet light.
And it's all about the light, because you go past that in a certain situation, you may not look at it, but as you say, you've got the hoarfrost, you've got that light that was coming down on top of it. There you were, poised with the camera, bang, you got the image, unique. Great image. So I agree with you in that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that tree is ugly, but not on that day. Yeah. It's funny though, that video was back in the day when I wasn't really filming B-roll. I don't think I've got any B-roll of that tree. I can't remember. But yeah, I think I was rushing trying to photograph it rather than film it. But yeah, great image.
And right next to some big viaduct as well, I think, or something.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And so, same question for you, Adam. Who is your favorite in your book?
Well, I have two images, and I always put them together because I have prints of these images hanging in my home, and they just go so well together. And they happen to be more or less in the same area, and they're older images. Actually, I took with 4x5 film many years ago, and they're on pages 16 and 17. And there's two images, woodland images, at Golden Ears Provincial Park. And actually, I was there just the other day with a friend of mine, and we went to check this area out, and everything's still there. So I don't know, for whatever reason, I just love these two photographs. I think one of the reasons being is that they were a couple of my the first successful images that I really took with a 4x5, where I was actually really happy with the photographs. So, and one of them was actually taken with a very long lens, a 500mm, which is quite hard to use with a 4x5 because you need just so much bellows draw for that longer lens. But yeah, I've always really liked these images. Unfortunately, they lose a bit of their detail in the book. The image on page 17, when you blow it up big, it has all these little cobwebs in there, and they've got dew all over them, and it's I just love it for that, all the details. But I think those are probably a couple of my favorites for sure.
And even looking at the image on page 17, I think that is actually perfect. I would kind of look at your photography and say, Adam loves backlight. And when you look at what you have here, you've got backlight.
Yeah, and the light was just beautiful.
Beautiful image. So yeah, so I allow you to have the two. I mean, you couldn't really just say that one was nice, I suppose, on that one,
That was very generous.
It's okay. It's all about the light, as they say. Well, as you say, yeah. So
it is.
And I suppose the next question I have for you on that is, you both have favorite images, and you kind of alluded to it a couple of times there during so far about the things that you've learned. But what surprised both of you most about the whole process, starting out, the creation, the finalization, the launch, the feedback, and then to this present day? Was there many items within that surprised you most, or are you still being surprised? Maybe Thomas, to go to you on that one.
Well, it's I don't know. I mean, I was surprised at how difficult it is to do it completely on your own, to find a manufacturer, a printer, all that kind of stuff. Very, very difficult. Luckily, I had help from James Bell. He's known as Capture Lakeland, and he's published a couple of books, so he sort of pointed me in the right direction to manufacturers and things like that, because obviously costs spiral insanely, and
for sure.
You do have to make a profit
about
because there are so many other costs, like books going missing, books getting damaged, resending books, all that sort of stuff. But what surprised me the most is, man, I don't know, because it was such a long, slow process. Nothing really caught me by surprise. So it's a tough question. To answer. So,
you've probably still been surprised,
I tell you
as each day would go on.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm surprised at how proud of it I am. Like, usually when I work on a project for a long amount of time, as soon as it's done, I'm sick to death of it, right? So I don't ever want to look at that thing again. Like, if I edit a video that I've been working on for ages and then I publish it, I'll happily never want to see that video again. But on my book, I just, I don't know, I'm still surprised that every time I pick it up, it's almost surreal, because it actually, I know it sounds feels like an actual proper book. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel self-published. It also surprised me that you have to, by law, send copies of your book to the British Library. 5 copies. God, it cost me a fortune.
Wow. Wow.
So I sent them all the dodgy ones that were damaged in transit.
Yeah, page
22.
Exclusive
No,
edition.
not really. But I was surprised that by law you have to send them 5. I had no problem. I think it's cool that it's in the library, but 5 copies. I was like, it's going to cost me 50 quid to send them. It's a pleasure. I think now I've done it once. I think I'm keen to do another book, but I don't have enough content at the minute.
And I suppose, for me, Thomas, the biggest one is very similar to that. I share it with you, is that, when you actually hold something in your hand, it's no longer on a screen. It's no longer a video you've produced from your computer to go to YouTube. You actually have something that you can pick up and that you can relax and you can actually look at. And some people are kinetic and they need to touch things. And by touching an image, it actually becomes more part of yourself. And obviously, from your point of view, it's your image. So it's all about you, because it's yourself, let's just say. But for me, as the average person picking up the book, I love the idea of a book. Like I said, I've got a number of the books that are there because I can look at a screen or I can look at my phone and I put it down and I press the power off button and it's gone. Whereas this, it just sits there and it calls me to look at it each time. So that's what I feel, I suppose, about the advantage of having a book in front. But I'm not going to answer your question about what surprises you, of course. But yeah, that's that's how we would have gotten to that one. And I suppose maybe Adam, what's from you? Was there any surprises, or was it just a case of how easy it was dealing with Craig?
Well, first of all, I agree with you about having a book or having a collection of books. They just bring so much inspiration. And when you have a book like Tom's or mine, where you can actually touch and feel the cover and just flip through it at your leisure, drinking a coffee or whatever, it's a really nice experience. The thing that surprised me the most was how quickly I sold out. So I went really conservative. I only printed 500 copies, which isn't a lot, and they sold out very quickly. I really underestimated the power of YouTube. So I got another 1,000 printed, and we're pretty close to selling those out too. Wow. So
that's brilliant.
As far as a moneymaker, it wasn't a huge moneymaker for me, this project. Obviously, because the book is printed in the UK. Some of the books we even had a slip cover made for them, which is extremely expensive. I think each slip cover costs about £15 each. So it's definitely more of a passion project for me than a big money maker. Mm-hmm. But now I know more about it, and of course I've talked to Tom about it as well. I'm curious and keen to perhaps publish my own book in the future. But I just didn't know the ins and outs, and I wasn't really up for the commitment, the money commitment, and also taking all that risk, But now I know a bit more about it.
It's expensive when you do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's funny because the more you order, the lower the cost per book is. But it dramatically drops. If I was to order 1,000 books versus 2,000 books, it's not like if you order 2,000, the price doubles. That it might go up by 20%. So I ended up ordering loads of books. I think I ordered 15 pallets, and I had to actually rent some storage. But the reason I did that is I went all in. Like I think it cost me about close to 40 grand to buy the books. Yeah, a big investment. Yeah. But the reason I did that, and I knew that it was going to be a big gamble because I'm not going to sell them all straight away. But if I'd have ordered them in small chunks, say ordered 1,000 books once or twice a year, the cost price per book would be almost probably treble what it is if I just ordered everything in one go. So it massively comes down. So the more you can bankroll, or I suppose the more. And the problem wasn't necessarily the cost price of buying the books, because I was pretty confident I'd sell enough to get that back. It's the storage. So I now have an entire storage unit dedicated to books. And I think that cost me about £400 a month just to store the books. Yeah, it's expensive. But it's either that or just have books all over my house. But the reason I don't mind is because I know that the book has an unlimited shelf life. I wrote it in such a way that it was timeless. So I don't talk much about gear and technology, which tends to change. It's all about the story and the image. So I wrote it purposely in a way that you could pick this book up in 20 years' time and it would still be perfectly relevant as it is today. With the exception of the QR codes in the back, which will take you to my YouTube videos. Who knows if QR codes are going to be a thing in 10 or 20 years, but that's only a really tiny part of the book and isn't actually integral to the content of the book itself. It's a huge risk. But by taking the risk, it does mean I can lower the cost price, and I've always got them in stock, so I'll never lose a sale because they're not in stock. So that's quite good. I just wanted a product that I could just sell a few a day, just send them out. So, expensive, very expensive.
And I think actually the biggest one that you mentioned there is that you are bankrolling this yourself 100% up front.
Well,
you got pre-orders.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you to kind of fund it in that way, but you know that there's an interest there. But the extra books thereafter, like for example, Adam, you had 500 books that you would have, or 1,000 books. At the very beginning, would you turn around and go, you know what, I'm going to go 2,000 books. You know what, sod it, I'm going to go 5,000 books. You wouldn't, because you kind of go, is it going to work or not? Whereas Tom, you've kind of...
Yeah, well, I was... I was very conservative because I just didn't know how many I would sell. And books are definitely better than calendars when it comes to, you don't, but by the time you get to the end of the year, if you're still stuck with all those calendars, then obviously they might end up going on sale. But with a book, you could just keep selling them year after year. But I didn't want to be stuck with, thousands and thousands of books, so that, I don't know, I just wasn't too sure about it. I was just conservative about the whole thing. But now I know a bit more about it, and I've talked to Tom about it, obviously, and I would probably take a bit more risk with it,
Yeah, I think the other thing to bear in mind is if you order 1,000 books, you need to order 1,000 pieces of packaging, and packaging's big, bulky, and heavy. So a pallet of books is half a pallet of packaging. So you've got to take all that in mind. But like as I mentioned before, the price that I'm paying for my storage per month pales in comparison to the price I would have been paying if I'd ordered the books in smaller units, smaller quantities. So if I'd have ordered 1,000 and sold out, and ordered another 1,000 and sold out, and so on and so forth, the cost price, the unit price per book would have been way higher. You've got to kind of become a bit of a businessman, which I'm not. I just literally put numbers into a spreadsheet and see which one works out best. It's quite straightforward, but it's always a risk. The biggest risk, of course, was that the book would have a massive error in it, or a mistake or something, or it would be terrible quality. That was a big worry. I was worried it was just going to turn up and just be awful, even though I knew it wouldn't, because I'd seen samples. I know people that have used this manufacturer before. But it's just doing something you've never done before is always nerve-wracking.
For sure, it's a brave move, and fair play to you for doing it, because the finished result is excellent. Like I said earlier, it's an excellent.
Yeah, and I also ship everything myself as well. People seem to think I've got a team. I'm sat here in my dressing gown. This is how I pack books. So I've got a room next door where I keep I'll keep about 100 books and a few bits of packaging, and every day I'm packing books, putting stamps on them, and driving to the post office and handing them over. Everything's done myself. So it's a big job, but it's night.
You got the dog to lick the dog to lick.
Yeah,
the
dog to lick the stamp. Well, I can't lick them because of COVID, so I got the dog to do that.
Monty, come in here. I have a job for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have it. I actually do have quite a streamlined process. But yeah, just bear that in mind. There is so much, and as an incentive to sell the pre-orders, I said I would sign every pre-order. Oh my god, that was hard work. I stopped signing my calendars this year because it's just too much hard work. The book, it was equally as challenging.
So now I know why you wrote such a fantastic message. When I asked you to sign the copy.
Fuming when you asked me. I was like, not again.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No. That message, I meant every word of it.
Question for you both, right? So I have both of your books here. So I've got Adam's book and I've got your book. And I've got my impression of what I feel when I hold the books. But did you have something in mind that you wanted what did you want your book to represent in the hands of the new owner, let's just say? Was there a mission? Was there an underlying thing that you said, you know what, I want to create the book, and when the person picks it up, X or Y? Or was it, this is my book, this is my work, from your own feelings? Was there any precognitive thoughts of that by chance?
Well, for me, there wasn't really. It was just, like I said at the beginning, it was more of a kind of a portfolio of not really 20 years. I mean, a lot of the images in there are actually quite recent. I think my photography's improved over the last few years, but I don't know. It was just didn't even really have a theme. It was just a group of images that go well together, and it just kind of represents the type of photography that I take. I guess the thing that I wanted to do is just inspire people with my images, to get out there and take their own photographs, and just enjoy nature. There wasn't any real story behind it. It's just something nice that people could look at, and I think I've achieved that. It's just a nice feeling to have a book of your work. Finally, I would have never have dreamt of having my own book, and now I'm thinking of another book and maybe a couple more after that as well. It's just a great way to present my work to the world. So,
and did by any chance you have any expectations of the Vancouver Tourist Board one day thanking you for having the amount of people that wanted to come over and look at all the beautiful areas you photographed? No.
Well, I don't want to move over anyway.
Not in 2020 anyway, that's for sure. Yeah.
It's quite funny to say that, because we have what are called the snowbirds, and all of the seniors in the winter, they drive down to Arizona or Florida or California or whatever. Well, of course, the border's closed. So where is everybody coming? They're all coming to Vancouver Island because it's the warmest place in Canada. And of course, Calgary, Edmonton, and all those places are freezing cold right now. So everybody's driving out here. So, but so, I don't want to go
nice
to my local patches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not nice right now, I suppose. Yeah. And I suppose, Thomas, same question for you. What do you want the person that's holding the book to feel? Is there something there, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, every time I've looked at a book, even when I first started photography, I think one of the first photography books I bought was Brian Peterson, Understanding Exposure. And man, just having a book and, reading it under torchlight, or, sitting and, everyone leaves the house is nice and quiet. You have a beer or a whiskey or a coffee, you sit down in a comfy chair and you just leaf through a book, and it gives you so much inspiration and excitement for your own adventures that you can create. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do, which is why the stories were such a big part of it, because like I say, when I read photography books, it's very nice looking at images, but as a photographer, I want more. I want to know more. Not technically necessarily, but I just want to learn more about what was going through the photographer's mind when he took the photograph. So definitely, for me, it was all about people being inspired and hopefully understanding a bit more about my photography and my work. Because on YouTube, you know, there's only so much you can get across on a YouTube video. It's more what you're thinking afterwards that you can put pen to paper that gives the true story. Inspiration, without a doubt, inspiration.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, from my point of view, having both of the books, I'll tell you what my thoughts are, is that, you know, I think, Thomas, like I said, from your book, I love where you tell the story behind it, what your feeling was, how you would have composed. You can almost feel the cold that be there on the cold ones. You can almost feel the wind that's blowing against you and the ones that are going to be a wild scenario. Adam, on your books, I mean, it's a breadth of work over the last 20 years, and I think it's something that I look at the images and I go, wow. And not only wow because they're beautiful, but wow because you did them on film. And that, I think, is a bigger one in the current day and age, in the digital day and age, where it's instant gratification. You take that photograph, you know if it's right or wrong. Okay, you can do another photograph and do it again or take another exposure. But looking at the images here, you didn't have that. So I think both books are phenomenally good. That's why I wanted, like I say, both of you to come onto the podcast to discuss the journey the whole way through. But they're a fantastic body of work that you both have now produced. I'm happy I've got them both here, and I can sit in that armchair. I can have that glass of whiskey. I can pick it up and I can say, okay, I want to go exploring around some old growth forests with Adam. I can pick up that book and I can immerse myself in it. And Thomas, with your book, I can read, but I can also click on the QR code and I can go now watch the video of how you created that image and see it for myself, how you were able to pull that composition out of a scene, which is the beauty of photography, that most people drive by or drive past or walk over or don't even go for that photograph. But it's about finding the composition to see it in the video, and now I can see it in the book. So on both accounts, I think I feel it from both your books anyway.
Yeah,
Great,
thanks,
thanks, Darren. Appreciate that.
Yeah, very, very good feedback. Thank you very much.
No, I mean it. So I suppose, you know, pros and cons. Let me summarize it this way. Pros and cons of publisher or pros and cons of self-publishing? Who wants to go first? Together.
I go first. I think that the pros of going the route that I have gone is that there are very few risks. You just have to convince a publisher to go with your work, and if they agree and you can pre-sell them, then there isn't an awful lot of risk. Now, having said that, the publisher, they take a huge chunk, so it's definitely not a big money maker. If you go Tom's route, then there's more risk and it's a lot more work, but the payback is way bigger than the way I did it. And it's also probably more satisfying, especially if you can pull it off. But I wouldn't know that because I haven't done it that way. So,
do you when you ordered your books from Kazoo, did they dispatch them for you as well, or do you send them?
They do everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's it.
Everything.
Then I think
and that comes at a price. I mean, you know, they're not. It's not cheap. So, you know, it's not a huge money maker for me. That's for sure.
But I suppose it's stress-free and relatively passive. So if you get,
yeah, it's more of a passion project. You know, it's just a passion project.
I mean, I looked at both routes extensively, and I think for me, the hardest part of having a successful book is actually selling it. So I think the logistics and the manufacturing and all of that, there are risks involved. However, I felt that if I went down a publisher route, the financial gain was way too small. Considering I see the value being in the content of the book, so the pictures and the stories. and putting the whole thing together and selling it, having the audience and having people to sell to. And then I saw the publisher taking ginormous percentages, like huge. I don't want to say any numbers because I can't remember the exact figures, but you're talking majority.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just thought, well, okay, let's look at the other way. What if I did everything myself? Because I've got the audience to sell to. I've already got the content of the book. All I need to do is figure out how to get the thing made and get and distribute it. But yeah, so a financial reward is great because you get 100% of everything. You get the whole pie, which is nice. But the risks, huge risks, huge risks, and the fact that you have full responsibility of everything. If a book goes missing in the post, you've got to reply to the email. If a book turns up damaged, you've got to resend it. If you've got to chase up the couriers and the shipping companies and find out where that book is and where the order is and deal with customs and all sorts. And of course, if you make a mistake in the publishing process, you've got no one to blame but yourself, right? So if one of the pages is backwards, or there's a spelling mistake on the front page, it's you. It's all on you. So in terms of that, but you can mitigate all of those risks by giving the book to as many people as possible to read beforehand, pay an editor, and speak to people who've done a book and see if they can help guide you through the process. I know if James, who helped me with my book, I couldn't have done it without him. No way. He helped me out massively. I had to learn new software as well, because you've got to lay the book out in Adobe InDesign, I think it is. Yeah, so I had to learn a whole new software and everything. Yeah, it's easy, but again, it's that, imagine trying to learn Photoshop from scratch. It's like, how do I do this? What does that do? But the reward, when you do everything right and you be careful and pay attention, the reward of having a finished product and getting 100% of every sale comes to you. And, the logistics, you just get a system going, it's easy. I ship my books Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And then if I want to go on a photography trip for a week, what I'll do is I'll put a massive banner on my website saying, I am not shipping books until the 21st of September or whatever, because I am on a photography trip. And people don't care. They'll still buy it and they'll just wait. And if they can't wait, they won't buy it, and that's fine. So yeah, it's great. It's very rewarding. But it is hard work, like super hard work. I think I sold, pre-sold about 3,000 books and had to try and ship them all out in about 2.5-3 weeks. And that was just you're talking 16-hour days. I'm not joking. 16-hour days of packing, shipping, stamping, signing, emailing people saying your book's on its way, here's the tracking number. You've got all these little problems to solve, like how do you send people their tracking number, because the Royal Mail won't do it. So you've got to do it. That's
a lot of books.
Wow.
I know it is. And it was also a lot to, every single one of those books had to be signed, put in a box, the box had to be sealed, had to print out a stamp with their address on, stick it on, shove it all in a bag, and have Royal Mail come and pick up all the books, which you have to pay for if they come and collect them. Whereas now I just drive to the post office because I sell just like 1 or 2 a day. But very rewarding.
That's amazing. I mean, and you know what? It's interesting you say it, because you get 100% of the risk, 100% of the reward, but 100% of the work, and that's when you start valuing time. 16-hour days, and you kind of say, you know what? Maybe I'd be better off going down the route of Adam and saying there's somebody else that can do that for me, that I can concentrate on going off and creating more content. Yeah,
of course, there is that. But I knew that was a short period. It was 16-hour days for 2 weeks, and then I knew that once it comes to a manageable level of the book sales just dripping in, like maybe 2-3 a day, it really takes 10 seconds to just package them up and send them off to the post office. So I have looked at using distributors, but again, I think I'm a bit of a control freak. Like I want to know the books are packaged properly. I want to know that they're shipped correctly. I don't want to know that I'm sending out, because every now and again you get a book where the title might be wonky or something. It's just a dodgy one off the production line. It's little things like that. So I really enjoy it as well. You can't look past that. I do enjoy it. It's satisfying packaging them and shipping them out and stuff. So
100%. And I suppose, like I said earlier, they're both fantastic books. So, I mean, all that's left for me really to ask both of you is, where can people buy your books? Adam, Where can you get Adam's book? Volume, Adam's book print release 2. Sorry, yeah.
Yes, www.kozu, that's KOZU books.com.
Perfect.
Actually, you have to be careful because we go there and you'll still see the first edition. It says sold out, but there's also the second edition on there, and that's the one that you're after. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I'm going to get that. I haven't got it yet. I've been saying since Iceland I was going to buy it.
What? I got your book, man.
I know you did.
I can recommend it. It's great.
No, honestly, it's on my to-do list. Like watching your video.
Yeah. Actually, and Thomas, where can people find and buy your book?
Just go to my website, which is thomasheaton.co.uk, and then I've got like a little drop-down menu that says shop, and then you can see it in there. Books. You'll find it. It's everywhere. I'm one of those shameless people who promote my book at every single opportunity. So no matter where I am, you'll see it.
Absolutely. You're dead right to do that. Absolutely. And people can buy a calendar as well. So they can buy a Thomas Heaton 2021 calendar to good riddance.
Yeah, please do, because I've got so many left over. I can't get rid of them. Yeah.
And
it's probably because all photographers are selling calendars this year. Yes, sure. I have. Again, it's with Kozu Books. The calendar is from there. Yeah,
perfect. So, guys, look. My battery's nearly gone on my cameras. My battery's nearly gone on my human. I've really enjoyed the conversation this evening. It's really given an insight into the huge amount of work that you've both put into creating both of your books. Be proud of both of them. I have both of them. So you need to make sure, Thomas, that you order Adam's in the second edition to get a copy of that. Make sure you go for the outside sleeve as well.
So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. Sorry, what was it, Adam?
Kozu Books, yeah.
Yeah, skip past Ben's book there and go on to Adam's.
You know what? I bought Ben's. I've got Ben's.
What? Oh my god!
I know. I'm so sorry. It's just, I think he's obviously a better salesman than you.
Actually, I don't have.
Here we go.
I don't have Ben's.
I'm missing all this. My video has just died. Go on, keep going.
Oh, it's nice.
Oh, well, we're still going.
Yeah, Ben's.
Yeah, you still keep going. Yeah, you still keep going. Yeah.
I'd just like to say that Adam's book is 1 penny more expensive than mine.
Oh.
Right, there you go. I've added it to my cart. I will purchase it. My wallet's downstairs. I look forward to it. I do. It's just one of those things that's on my to-do list. Has been forever.
Well, you heard it here first now. You see, Thomas is making sure that he's committed on the Irish Photography Podcast. Number 1, he's going to get Adam's book, and number 2, he's going to watch my video that I've made about his book as well.
That is on my to-do list. Everything is.
Guys, thank you very, very much for joining the Irish Photography Podcast. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed hearing the stories on the back end and how the whole thing came about. I've enjoyed both the books. So from me in Ireland to Thomas in the UK and to Adam in the beautiful Vancouver Island, from Ireland, thanks very much. Slán go fóill.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, if you dig what you're hearing, why don't you jump over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and don't forget to share with your friends. With all that done, we'll see you next week, and remember, keep shooting.